The huge doors of the Galactic Council chamber stood wide open. Inside, hundreds of alien beings sat in their special seats. Some looked like giant crystals that sparkled in the light. Others were made of gas and floated like colored clouds. A few had many arms and legs, while some had no solid body at all. At the center of the room stood Elena Vasquez. She was a human woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had been talking to aliens for 30 years. Today, she held a small device in her hands. The device would send her words to every corner of the galaxy. "The human race is leaving," Elena said. Her voice was calm but firm. "We will not help with talks anymore. We will not solve your problems. We are done." The room became very quiet. For 300 years, humans had helped different alien races talk to each other. When the bird-like Skyborn could not understand the fish-like depths, humans found a way. When the rock people and the plant people had fights, humans helped them make peace. Elena looked around the room. She saw fear in many alien faces. Good, she thought. They should be afraid. 6 months ago, the Coraxian Empire and the Lumina Federation almost went to war. Elena continued. My people worked day and night to stop the fighting. We saved millions of lives. We found a way for both sides to be happy. She paused. The memory still hurt. And what did you do? You said we were wrong. You said humans try to control everyone. You voted to punish us. 847 votes against us. Only 23 votes for us. Elena's voice got harder. You said we should mind our own business. You said other races could handle their own problems. Fine. Do it. A tall, thin alien with blue skin stood up. Ambassador Zenth had worked with humans for 50 years. Please, Elena. We made a mistake. But the galaxy needs human help. Elena shook her head. No. You were very clear. You do not want human interference. You will not get it. I have won. I have won. You will not get it. She walked toward the big wooden doors. These doors came from Earth long ago. They were made from oak trees that grew in Elena's home country. Now, they would close on 3 centuries of friendship. Wait, called out another alien. This one looked like a walking tree. What about the trade talks? What about the border disputes? What about first contact with new species? Elena stopped walking. She did not turn around. Figure it out yourselves. You are all very smart races. You do not need humans anymore. Remember? She war also tell Phi. She war also tell Phi. She war also tell Phi. She war also. Remember. The alien voices got louder. Some were angry. Some were scared. All of them were talking at once. Elena could hear them arguing already. Without humans to help, they could not even agree on how to talk to each other. Elena walked through the oak doors. Behind her, the other humans followed. There were 50 of them. Doctors who helped aliens understand each other. Teachers who learned new languages. Negotiators who found solutions to impossible problems. They all left. The doors closed with a loud sound that echoed through the chamber. For the first time in 300 years, the Galactic Council was alone. In the hours that followed, emergency meetings started everywhere. Space stations sent urgent messages. Military fleets moved to protect their borders. Trade ships changed course to avoid dangerous areas. The Andromedans called their war council. The Centauri Consortium armed their merchant fleet. The peaceful Lumina Federation began building weapons for the first time in 200 years. Everyone suddenly remembered the problems that humans had been quietly fixing. The Tertius system, where 2 races both wanted the same planets. The translation errors between species that thought in completely different ways. The trade agreements that only worked because humans helped write them. On the space station near Earth, Elena sat in her office. Through the window, she could see ships leaving. Human diplomats were going home. The building that had been the center of galactic peace was emptying. Her assistant, a young man named James, knocked on her door. "Ma'am, we are getting thousands of messages. Everyone wants to know if we will change our minds." Elena did not look up from her desk. "What do you think, James? Should we change our minds?" James was quiet for a moment. He had watched the council vote to punish humans. He had seen the alien faces full of anger and suspicion. "No, ma'am. They made their choice." Elena nodded. "Send the same message to everyone. Humanity is no longer involved in galactic politics. All human diplomats are coming home. All mediation services are ended. Each species must handle their own affairs." Outside, alien ships were already gathering near the borders of human space. Some wanted to talk. Others wanted to make threats. A few were just confused and scared. Elena turned off her computer. Tomorrow, she would start packing. The office where she had prevented a dozen wars would soon be empty. The galaxy had asked for this. Now they would get what they wanted. As she walked to her quarters, Elena passed the memorial wall. It showed the faces of humans who had died helping other races find peace. Diplomats killed in crossfire. Translators who died from alien diseases. Mediators assassinated by extremists who hated the peace process. "I hope it was worth it," Elena whispered to their pictures. In the distance, she could hear the first reports coming in. 2 minor species were already arguing about trade routes. A border patrol had fired warning shots. A translation error had turned a greeting into an insult. The galaxy was learning what it was like without human help. The lesson was just beginning. 3 weeks had passed since the humans left. The galaxy was falling apart. In the Tertius system, Andromedan and Centauri ships faced each other across empty space. Both races wanted the same planets. Both claimed they owned the mineral-rich worlds. For 50 years, human diplomats had kept them talking instead of fighting. Now there were no humans to help. Commander Thex of the Andromedan fleet watched the Centauri ships on his screen. His people believed that planets belonged to everyone. All races should share the resources. The Centauri believed the opposite. They thought whoever found something first should own it. These ideas could never work together. Humans had found clever ways to make both sides happy. They created shared mining operations. They made schedules for who could use what areas. They built rules that seemed fair to everyone. But the humans were gone. The old agreements meant nothing now. "Sir," said Thex's communications officer, "the Centauri are sending mining ships toward Planet 3. Thex felt anger rise in his chest. That planet belongs to all people. They cannot just take it. On the other side of space, Captain Yira of the Centauri Consortium made her own decision. Her people had found these planets first. They had the right to mine them. The Andromedans were trying to steal what belonged to the Centauri. "Prepare weapons," she ordered. "If they try to stop our miners, we will defend ourselves." The first shots were fired an hour later. Andromedan fighters tried to block the Centauri mining ships. The Centauri escorts fired back. In minutes, 3 ships were destroyed. Hundreds of beings died. But this was just the beginning. On the other side of the galaxy, something much worse was happening. The Synaptics and the Freelanders were at war. The Synaptics were a hive mind. Millions of beings shared the same thoughts. They worked together like parts of one giant brain. They could not understand why anyone would want to be alone with their own thoughts. The Freelanders were the opposite. Each person was completely independent. They made their own choices. They valued freedom above everything else. The idea of sharing thoughts horrified them. For decades, humans had helped these 2 races talk to each other. It was incredibly difficult. Humans had to learn how to speak to a hive mind and how to speak to extreme individuals. They created special translation systems that could change hive thoughts into individual thoughts and back again. Without these systems, the two races could not understand each other at all. The disaster started with a simple mistake. A synaptic diplomatic ship wanted to ask about trade agreements, but they used an old translation computer. The computer was from before humans improved the system. Instead of saying, "We wish to discuss trade," the message came out as, "We will absorb your independence." To the Freelanders, this sounded like the worst possible threat. The Synaptics were declaring war on their way of life. The Freelanders responded immediately. They attacked the synaptic processing centers, where the hive mind did its thinking. The Synaptics could not understand what happened. To them, the Freelanders had attacked without warning. The hive mind decided that individual thinking was dangerous and had to be stopped. They began targeting Freelander settlements. Within days, both sides were sending their biggest weapons. Freelander stealth ships destroyed synaptic communication networks. Synaptic drone swarms overwhelmed Freelander colonies. Millions died. Billions more fled their homes. Other races watched in horror. The peaceful depths, who lived in ocean worlds, tried to send help to both sides. But without human translators, they could not even explain what they wanted to do. Their underwater language made no sense to air-breathing species. The Skyborn attempted to offer their services as mediators, but they lived in the clouds of gas-giant planets. They had never learned to think the way ground-dwelling species think. Their offers of help sounded like threats. In the Galactic Council chamber, emergency sessions lasted for days, but nothing got done. Without humans to guide the discussions, the different species could not agree on anything. The crystal-like Zephyrians tried to be logical. They presented facts and numbers. But the emotional species like the Terrans thought the crystals were cold and uncaring. The plant-like Verdanians wanted to find solutions that helped everyone grow. But the metal-based Feroids saw this as weakness. They believed in strength and competition. Every meeting ended in anger. Every vote failed. Every attempt at peace talks collapsed before they even started. Trade between species stopped almost completely. Ships were afraid to travel through space where fighting might break out. Merchants could not trust each other without human mediators to guarantee their deals. The economy began to crash. Species that had depended on trade for food faced starvation. Worlds that sold their resources to buy technology suddenly had no buyers. On Earth, Elena Vasquez read the reports. Each day brought news of new conflicts. Each week brought proof that the galaxy was destroying itself. Her assistant James found her in the garden where she grew earth flowers. "Ma'am, the council is begging us to come back. They say they will give us anything we want." Elena touched a red rose. Humans had brought these flowers to hundreds of worlds. Now many of those worlds were at war. What do they offer? Complete authority over all diplomatic missions. Unlimited resources. Formal recognition as the galaxy's official peacemakers. Elena picked the rose and smelled it. It reminded her of home, of a time when humans had thought they could help everyone get along. "Tell them no," she said quietly. James looked surprised. Elena looked at him. Her eyes were sad but determined. "They threw us away when they thought they did not need us. They treated us like we were the problem. Now they want us back because they are afraid." She walked toward the house. "Let them be afraid, James. Let them remember what the galaxy is like without humans to fix their mistakes. Maybe then they will understand what we really did for them." Behind her, the garden grew wild, just like the galaxy. 6 months had passed since the humans walked away. The galaxy was dying. In the great crystal halls of the Zephyrian Collective, Ambassador Keth Ara studied the data. Her crystalline body flickered with lights as she processed information. The numbers were terrible. Trade between species had dropped by 78%. Wars were breaking out faster than anyone could count them. Species that had been friends for centuries now refused to speak to each other. Kethara had been one of the beings who voted to censure humanity. Back then, she thought humans were too controlling. She believed other races could handle diplomacy just as well. She had been wrong. The data showed the truth. In the past 6 months, the galaxy had lost more territory to war than in the previous 100 years. More beings had died in conflicts than in the last 50 years combined. But the worst number was the one that made Kethara's crystal body dim with shame. In the past 300 years, 89% of successful peace agreements had needed human help to work. 89%. Kethara finally understood. Humans had not been controlling the galaxy. They had been holding it together. She gathered more data. The information painted a clear picture of disaster. The silicon-based quartzoids and the carbon-based Terrans could no longer trade with each other. Humans had always translated between silicon patience and carbon urgency. Quartzoids thought in terms of thousands of years. Terrans planned for decades at most. Without human mediators to bridge this gap, they could not even agree on how long a contract should last. The aquatic depths and the aerial skyborne had completely stopped meeting. These species literally could not survive in each other's environments. Humans had built special meeting places where both species could be comfortable. They had created protocols for underwater-to-air communication. Now, these systems sat empty and broken. Worse, the translation computers that had seemed so advanced were failing. Humans had spent centuries improving these machines. They taught the computers not just to translate words, but to translate ways of thinking. When humans left, no one else knew how to maintain the systems. Simple messages became dangerous misunderstandings. A polite greeting from one species sounded like a death threat to another. Peace offers were mistaken for surrender demands. Trade proposals looked like attempts at slavery. Fear spread through the galaxy like a disease. Species that had trusted each other for centuries suddenly saw enemies everywhere. Old alliances crumbled. New hatreds grew. Kethara brought her data to the Galactic Council. The emergency session had been going on for 3 days. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the chamber, but they could barely agree on anything. "Fellow beings," Kethara announced, her crystal voice ringing clearly. "I have conducted an analysis of our current situation." The room became quieter. The Zephyrians were known for their logical thinking. Other species might listen to crystal logic even when they ignored each other. In the past 6 months, we have experienced more conflicts than in the previous century. Our trade networks have collapsed. Our communication systems are failing. Our ability to resolve disputes has been reduced to nearly zero. A few beings shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They knew things were bad, but hearing the numbers made it real. The analysis shows that 89% of our successful diplomatic solutions over the past 300 years required human mediation techniques. Without these techniques, we have lost the ability to function as a galactic civilization. The chamber erupted in noise. Some beings denied the numbers. Others demanded to know how humans had become so important. A few began arguing about whose fault it was. Chancellor Vorth of the Coraxian Empire stood up. His people were warriors, bred for battle and conquest. They had never liked human softness in negotiations. Vorth had been one of the loudest voices demanding that humans be censured. Now his military empire was falling apart. Without humans to help negotiate with other species, the Coraxians could only use force. But force alone could not run a galactic empire. They needed trade, alliances, and communication. "Perhaps," Vorth said slowly, the words clearly difficult for him to speak, "we made an error in judgment." The admission shocked everyone. Coraxians never admitted mistakes. Their culture saw it as weakness. But Vorth continued, "My people are warriors. We understand strength, honor, and combat. We do not understand the subtle thinking required for peace between species that evolved under different stars. He looked around the chamber. We thought human methods were simple. We thought any species could do what humans did. We were wrong. Other beings began to speak up. The plant-like Verdanians admitted they could not communicate with machine-based species. The gas cloud Nathari confessed they had no idea how to talk to solid beings. The ancient Eternals realized they could not relate to species with short lifespans. Each species was discovering the same terrible truth. They were good at talking to species like themselves. But the galaxy contained thousands of different kinds of life. Only humans had developed the ability to understand and translate between all of them. It was not because humans were smarter. Many species were more intelligent than humans. It was not because humans were older. Several races had been traveling space for millions of years before humans even invented writing. It was because humans were adaptable. They had evolved on a planet full of different environments and challenges. They learned to work with species completely unlike themselves. They developed the mental flexibility to hold contradictory ideas at the same time. Most importantly, humans seemed to understand that being different was not the same as being wrong. Kethara watched the discussions with growing hope. Maybe, if the Council could admit their mistakes, they could convince humans to return. I propose that we send a delegation to Earth, she announced. We will offer humans complete autonomy in all mediation processes. We will provide unlimited resources. We will give formal recognition of humanity's unique diplomatic status. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in months, every species agreed on something. But as the delegation prepared to leave for Earth, Kethara felt a cold fear in her crystal heart. What if the humans said no? What if they refused to come back? What if the galaxy had destroyed the only thing that could save it? The delegation's ship launched toward human space, carrying the hopes of 1,000 species. Behind them, the galaxy continued to tear itself apart. One failed negotiation at a time. The delegation's ship approached Luna Station slowly. The massive space station had once been the busiest place in human space. Ships from across the galaxy had come here for trade, diplomacy, and peace talks. Now it looked almost dead. Ambassador Kethara stood at the viewing window with the other delegates. They could see the empty docking bays. The gardens that once hosted informal meetings between species were dark. The communication towers that had carried messages of peace across the galaxy stood silent. It looks abandoned, whispered Ambassador Zenth of the Theta Collective. His blue skin had turned pale with worry. Chancellor Vorth said nothing. The Coraxian warrior had never seen anything sadder than a place built for peace that had been left to die. They docked at the station's main port. A single human official met them. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with short brown hair and tired eyes. I am Officer Chen, she said politely but coldly. Ambassador Vasquez will see you in her office. They walked through corridors that had once been full of life. The walls still showed pictures of successful peace agreements. Humans shaking hands, tentacles, claws, and other appendages with alien diplomats, smiling faces from 100 different species. Now the corridors were empty, except for maintenance robots. Officer Chen led them to Elena's office. The room looked like someone was moving out. Boxes were stacked everywhere. Plants were dying on the windowsills. The furniture was covered with dust. Elena Vasquez sat behind her desk. She looked older than when they had last seen her 6 months ago. Her hair was completely gray now. Her face was lined with exhaustion. She did not stand up when they entered. She did not offer them seats. She just looked at them with eyes that had seen too much. You want us to come back, Elena said. It was not a question. Kethara's crystal body brightened. Yes. The galaxy needs human diplomatic expertise. We have analyzed the situation. Without humans, galactic civilization cannot function. Elena nodded slowly. I see. And what do you offer? Complete autonomy In all mediation processes, Keth-Ara said quickly. Unlimited resources. Formal recognition of humanity's unique diplomatic status. We will never interfere with human methods again. Keth-Ara. 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 Said quickly. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Outside her window, she could see the empty docking bays, where alien ships used to wait for human help with their problems. No, she said simply. The delegation stared at her in shock. Zenth was the first to speak. But the galaxy is destroying itself. Millions have died. Trade has collapsed. Species are at war. Across hundreds of systems. Elena's expression did not change. Yes, I know. Then why will you not help? Demanded Vorth. His warrior's training made it hard for him to understand how someone could refuse to fight when innocent beings were dying. Elena leaned back in her chair. Let me tell you what humans have been doing for the past 6 months. She picked up a datapad from her desk. We have not been sitting here feeling sorry for ourselves. We have been working. The delegation looked confused. We have been establishing bilateral relationships with species that supported us during the censure vote. The Lumina Federation, the Terran Republic, the Depths Commonwealth, and 17 others. These partnerships do not go through the Galactic Council. Keth-Ara's light dimmed. You are creating a separate galactic government? Not a government, Elena corrected. A network. Species that want human mediation can have it. They just have to leave the Council and join our alliance. She showed them the datapad. It displayed a map of the galaxy. Green areas showed the human alliance. Red areas showed Council space. Yellow areas showed unaligned systems. The green was spreading. The red was shrinking. 23 species have already joined us, Elena continued. 47 others have requested information about membership. These species have trade agreements that work. They have border disputes that get resolved peacefully. They have the benefits of human diplomacy. Elena stood up and walked to the window. The species in our alliance are prosperous and peaceful. The Council species are at war with each other and going broke. Which system works better? Zenth found his voice. But this divides the galaxy. We should all work together. Elena turned back to face them. Her eyes were hard. You had that chance. For 300 years, humans worked to keep everyone together. We solved problems that seemed impossible. We prevented wars that would have killed billions. She walked closer to the delegation. And how did you repay us? You voted to censure us. You said we were trying to control everyone. You told us to mind our own business. Elena's voice grew louder. You threw away 3 centuries of partnership because you were afraid that humans were getting too much influence. Well, congratulations. We no longer influence the Council at all. Vorth stepped forward. As a warrior, he understood honor. We were wrong. We admit this. Will you not forgive us? Elena looked at him for a long time. Forgiveness is not the issue, Chancellor. Trust is the issue. You made it very clear that you see human help as a threat to your independence. So we will no longer threaten your independence. She walked back to her desk and sat down. Our alliance offers everything the Council cannot. Peace, prosperity, and security. Any species can join by simply leaving the Council and signing our charter. Keth-Ara's crystal body flickered with desperate light. But what about the species who cannot leave? What about the ones trapped in Council politics? Will you let them suffer? Elena's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. They made their choice when they voted against us. Every species in the Council agreed that they did not need human help. We are simply giving them what they asked for. She picked up another datapad. We have been studying our own diplomatic methods during these 6 months. We have discovered principles of interspecies psychology that we never had time to research before. We have developed new techniques that could revolutionize peaceful contact between species. Elena looked directly at Kethara. This knowledge took us 300 years to develop. It cost us thousands of human lives. Do you really think we should give it away for free to beings who rejected us? The office fell silent. Outside, they could hear the distant hum of maintenance robots, the sound of a once great place slowly shutting down. Our offer stands, Elena said finally. Individual species may join the human-mediated alliance by leaving the Council. The Council itself is no longer recognized as a legitimate representative of galactic interests. Officer Chen appeared in the doorway. Ma'am, the delegate's ship is ready for departure. Elena did not stand up. She did not offer to shake hands or tentacles or any other appendage. She simply watched as the delegation filed out of her office. As they walked through the empty corridors back to their ship, Vorth spoke quietly to the others. We destroyed something precious. I do not think we can ever get it back. Kethara's light was very dim. The galaxy is dividing in half, and it is our fault. Their ship undocked from Luna Station and began the long journey back to Council space. Behind them, the station's lights grew smaller and smaller until they disappeared entirely. The delegation had come seeking forgiveness and reconciliation. They left with a terrible understanding that some mistakes cannot be undone. 1 year had passed since the humans walked away from the Galactic Council. The galaxy was now 2 different places. In the green zones of the human-mediated alliance, peace ships carried trade goods between friendly worlds. Diplomats from different species worked together to solve problems before they became conflicts. Children from many races played together in mixed colonies where humans had taught everyone to understand each other. In the red zones of the old Council space, warships patrolled borders that grew more hostile each day. Trade routes were empty, except for military convoys. Whole systems had gone dark, cut off from communication with their neighbors. Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station. This was the new headquarters of human diplomacy. Through the great windows, she could see ships from the Alliance, arriving and departing. Zephyrian crystal vessels carrying precision instruments. Lumina Federation seed ships full of new plants for terraforming. Depth Commonwealth water tankers bringing life to desert worlds. All of them working together. All of them at peace. Ma'am, said James, her assistant. He was older now, with lines around his eyes from the stress of helping rebuild galactic civilization. The morning reports are ready. Elena took the datapad and read the numbers. Trade within the Alliance was up 40% from pre-withdrawal levels. Not a single war had broken out between Alliance members in the past year. 17 new species had joined in the last 3 months. But the news from Council space was much different. The proud Coraxian Empire had split into 5 smaller kingdoms. Without human mediators, to help resolve disputes between different military houses, old rivalries had exploded into civil war. Half their fleet was destroyed in internal fighting. The Nathari hegemony had collapsed entirely. Their gas-based physiology made it impossible for them to understand solid-based species. They could not maintain trade relationships or negotiate territorial agreements. Their colonies were abandoned as food and resources ran out. Dozens of smaller species faced economic disaster. They had depended on trade with species they could no longer communicate with. Their diplomatic computers had failed, and they did not know how to fix them. Have any Council species requested Alliance membership today? Elena asked. James checked his notes. 3 more. The Andromedan clans want to escape their war with the Centauri. The Verdanian collective is facing starvation because they cannot negotiate for food imports. And the Pharaoh Assembly's manufacturing worlds are shutting down without rare element imports. Elena nodded. It was the same pattern every day. Council species slowly realized they could not survive without human diplomatic help. One by one, they abandoned the Council and asked to join the alliance. What is the Council's response? Chancellor Vorth sent another personal message, James said quietly. He is begging us to reconsider. He says the Council will dissolve completely within 6 months if this continues. Elena was quiet for a moment. Through the window, she could see a Coraxian refugee ship docking at the station. These were not warriors, but civilians, fleeing the civil war in their home space. The Alliance had accepted them as refugees and was helping them find new homes. Send the usual reply, Elena said finally. The human-mediated alliance welcomes any species that wishes to join. They simply need to formally withdraw from the Council and sign our charter. Yes, ma'am. James paused. Ma'am, do you ever wonder if we are being too harsh? Elena looked at him. Do you think we are? James considered the question carefully. He had been with Elena since the beginning. He had watched the Council vote to censure humanity. He had seen the aftermath when the galaxy started tearing itself apart. No, he said finally. They chose to reject us. We are giving them exactly what they asked for, the chance to handle their own affairs without human interference. Elena smiled slightly. It was the first time James had seen her smile in months. The galaxy is learning an important lesson about consequences. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. She walked to her desk and picked up a small, framed picture. It showed the old Galactic Council chamber on the day Elena had announced humanity's withdrawal. Hundreds of alien faces staring at her with anger, fear, and confusion. They thought human diplomacy was simple, Elena said. They thought anyone could do what we did. They saw our success and assumed it was easy. She put the picture down. They never understood that every peace treaty cost us something. That every successful negotiation required us to study, learn, and adapt. That we spent centuries developing the skills to help species that could barely understand each other. Elena walked back to the window. In the distance, she could see the boundary between Alliance space and Council space. It was marked by patrol ships from both sides, watching each other carefully. Now they know, she continued. They know what the galaxy is like without humans to fix their problems. They know what happens when species that evolved under different stars try to work together without help. James joined her at the window. The intelligence reports say some Council species are trying to develop their own diplomatic corps. They are studying our old negotiation recordings like ancient texts. Elena laughed, but there was no humor in it. Let them try. Diplomacy is not just about knowing the right words. It is about understanding how different minds work. It is about seeing solutions that no one else can see. It is about holding contradictory ideas in your head. At the same time, without going insane. She turned away from the window. It took humans 300 years to develop these skills. We learned from thousands of failures. We adapted to hundreds of different species. We paid for our knowledge with blood and tears. Elena walked to a wall display that showed a map of Alliance territory. The green zones were growing every day as more species joined them. The Council species want us to give them this knowledge for free. They want us to forgive them for rejecting us and go back to the old ways. But why should we? Amity. She touched the display, highlighting a peaceful trade route between former enemies. The species that trusted us are thriving. The species that rejected us are learning what trust is worth. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. James checked his communicator. Ma'am, it is from the Theta Collective. They are formally withdrawing from the Council and requesting Alliance membership. Elena nodded. Accept their application. Schedule the integration ceremony for next week. Another piece of the old Galactic Council had broken away. Another species had chosen human-mediated peace over Council chaos. Elena returned to her desk and picked up her daily schedule. 3 new trade negotiations between alliance species. A first contact protocol review for a newly discovered race. A cultural exchange program between species that had been enemies just 2 years ago. All of it possible because humans had learned to help others understand each other. Outside, the sun set over New Geneva Station. In Alliance space, billions of beings went to sleep in peace, knowing their diplomats would keep them safe. In Council space, millions more went to sleep in fear, wondering when the next war would start. Elena worked late into the night, as she always did. There were species to help, problems to solve, and peace to maintain. It was the same work she had done for the old council. The difference was that now, the species she helped actually wanted her help. On her desk sat a small wooden sign with words carved in ancient Earth script. Not all bridges are made of metal and stone. Some are built from understanding. The galaxy had learned this lesson the hard way. Some bridges, once burned, could never be rebuilt. But new bridges could always be built, if people really wanted to cross them. Elena turned off her office lights and looked out at the stars. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new species to help, and new chances to build understanding. The galaxy had wanted to stand on its own. Now it knew whether it actually could.